walking on the shore, relentless in the war. The legions in our hearts, shed waters in our balls. The spirit and the flesh, the emotions that arrest. The cerebral will contest, propelling the unrest. Preachers and bandits with means underhanded. The teachers pedantic and lack understanding. So sweep out the sand with the broom in your hand. Stand up, make we burn Babylon. Guess I can give the world to you, the world to you. But the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demon searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. Cause I can give the world to you, the world to you. But the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demon searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. Trembling in the haze with the semblance of a blaze. With gratitude and rage, we touch another page. With delirious delight, impervious to light. This vitality and might encourages the flight. Preachers and bandits with means underhanded. The teachers pedantic and lack understanding. So sweep out the sand with the broom in your hand. Stand up, make we burn Babylon. Cause I can give the world to you, the world to you. But the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you lurking, demon searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. Cause I can give the world to you, the world to you. But the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demon searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. The world to you, but the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demon searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. Cause I can give the world to you, the world to you. But the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demon searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, let me give you a little splash, a little 30-second splash, and then we're going to come right in. Oh, yes, it is the case over here on this channel that we try to talk about, especially in recent conversations, critical thinking, applying judgment, applying wisdom to critical aspects of your life, being able to bring real-time reasoning skills to bear on the situation and then moving accordingly. We know that it's not as easy as it sounds, okay? We know that there are many obstacles that hinder us from thinking critically, most of which are emotional, as a matter of fact, okay? We have emotional hangups that hold us back. So, and sometimes it's important to see, Aaron B, and shout out to everyone else in the chat. It is important to see through the workings of a life, through a particular life history, the application of critical thinking, the application of judgment, the application of making moves, and the ability and the willingness to make moves. So today we have a great guest. We have none other than the one and only the one and only O'Shea Duke Jackson, back at it again. How's it going, sir?
I'm trying to be rich like you, man. It's hard.
Get out of here.
Doing my best.
So congratulations. Maybe I'm wrong, but I believe you're done with the medical school thing in Poland.
I'm officially done in October. But close. But I'll take it right now. Thank you.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that from you.
So what's keeping you occupied now? Like what's in O'Shea's mind these days vis-a-vis, okay, you're in Poland, you're doing this thing, you're running this thing in Uganda, so on and so forth. What's kind of keeping you busy right now? What are you jotting down over there on your notepad?
Well, I'm jotting down some of the things I need to buy for the portfolio. I've been on my fidelity thing, so there's things I wanted to buy and how much it's going to cost before the end of the year. But the number one, I'm glad to be here. I'm thankful for the K Business Podcast. I'm glad that it's my first interview I've done in almost 4 or 5 months. But I've been busy every day. The needs of the social media business always keeps me busy. Not only am I responsible for myself, we have a production team, part of them is Africa, some of them is in Russia, some of them is in Kenya. So I'm busy every day, whether it's on this channel. I'm doing some consulting here and there if I feel like it. Play a big role in the community of other content creators. So that's one thing I deal with, not just subscribers, but I deal with a lot of Black YouTube. Wode Maya, met him before, African Traveler, the Manosphere, African Diaspora. So I do a lot of things also in other content strategies that's not even in the Manosphere. So I'm quite busy all the time.
Got it. Quite busy all the time. Got a whole bunch of things going on, and congratulations again. Let's get a little bit of the background going here. What I mean by that, just like, who is O'Shea? 7, 8, 9 years old. What kid are you? What would it be like to hang out with O'Shea? Are you the one that's always running around playing? Are you the quiet kid in the corner? Or are you the one talking smack about how everybody else is weaving and sandling it up? What exactly?
Oh yeah, I've always been, as my mom would say, a very rambunctious and mischievous child, and which is why I had to get a lot of beatings when I was young, because I was one of those kids you had to really show. Like if you told me something, you had to show me. But my dad was smart enough to really get to me early on, and when he did, I understood what was going on too. But I was a kid, I believe that probably in comparisons to my classmates, I had maybe a little bit above academic IQ level. And then I also had maybe a little bit more of a higher easily. I was able to pick apart, proved over time. But I was a kid that was smart. I was in church, and not just, was just full of energy, just like any other kid that grew up, in the socioeconomic factors of the crack addicted Black community that I was coming up. But I had a lot of social advantages over kids. My mom went to UC Davis. My dad went to UCLA. So I had some advantages that other kids didn't have. Yeah, but we were still poor, but
Okay. Now, if somebody would have asked you back then, so you've already described this kid that you are, rambunctious person. Your mom is like, oh my God, oh Lord, this child talking to the pastor about you and everything.
Oh yeah.
But if somebody were to say back then, hey, O'Shea, at some point, you're going to have this operation in Uganda and you're going to be doing you're going to go to Poland for certain reasons, to solve certain problems, to get certain things done, whatever, right? And also you're going to have a base in California as well, and so on and so forth. Would that be as something, how would that have struck you? You'd be like, oh yeah, that's what I'm planning. Or how would that have sounded if somebody were to have said that to you back then?
I wouldn't, I don't make this a religious conversation or anything, but what you have planned for yourself and what God got planned for you is a lot different. I wouldn't have probably even believed it. If you would have told me that I would have been successful in the United States, or become a tax attorney at McGeorge School of Law, I would have believed that. I was always a person that was willing to work hard and sacrifice. But to come to Poland and to be here and then to go to Africa, I used to do Africa, man. I never thought I would actually get there. I thought I would go there and just say, I went, that was it. But no, I wouldn't believe it. But when you get exposed to the international way of life, it kicks in another level of determination that's not there. Because, in the medical school that I go to, in comparisons to U.S. medical schools, where, things are a little bit more structured and more organized. And, that's the one thing about American education is, there's you get some support in what you're trying to achieve. When you're overseas, you don't have any support. You have to really get it for yourself. You have to really be responsible for you more so. And that's what kind of kicked into the gear with a kind of sink or swim kind of thing. And that I think would have never happened in America as much as it was here, because I didn't have I had to do it for myself. I had to get by myself. So I had to really push myself to do things that I wouldn't have ever thought I would be able to achieve. So if that makes sense. So I think coming overseas really changed my perspective on the world, how the world economy and I still don't know how it really works all together, but I have a better idea how it works. And then, you obviously, the more places that you've been through, experiences you've been through, it gives you a really strong competitive advantage. That's what I would think, that over the years it's been compounding competitive advantages. So I wouldn't have thought that. And I'm a very opportunistic person. If you give me an advantage to do something, I'm going to do it. So, but I don't think that I would have been able to think that I would be here now. No.
Shout out. Let me just go ahead and acknowledge some of the super chats that are out here, and then we move on. I see Ramil just dropped something, but first and foremost, what is highlighted here on the screen? A little round of applause for you, K Business Podcast, always holding it down. Thank you very much. Says, what's up, brother Ike? And then Ramil Amir himself.
That's my brother right there. That's
Yep.
my brother right there. I mean, we got to do a show, Ramil. Okay.
Ramil himself. So shout out to you, sir. Also, now, that is interesting that you say that, okay? It's interesting that you're saying that basically if somebody would have told you that this is the extent you will have gone with your opportunism, the extent you would have gone with your willingness to take action, it would have been a little surprising. You're like, oh, you know what? I know I would have done this, and the other. And I know I'm a go-getter. I know I'll kind of have certain advantages. I'm willing to use them. But I don't think I would have gone that far. So let's then take it back there now in terms of the steps. But I'm going to branch off and just talk about YouTube, and then it'll kind of elucidate certain things.
Yeah, sure.
So how did you end up in the YouTube landscape? Because I see you're in two different lanes. You're in the Pan-African space.
Yes.
And also you're in the manosphere.
Yes.
Writ large, right? That kind of a thing. So start from one or the other, or did they both start at the same time? How did you find yourself in these spaces? Okay, go ahead.
No. So I had got fired from Tesla in 2014. And I was working, I never told the story all together, but I was working at Verizon Wireless for some years. I got doxxed so people could see that was my work history. So I worked for them for a few years. Because when I graduated from Sacramento State University, I had applied to pharmacy school. So I had a few interviews, but then I never got in, which was good because at the time, retail pharmacy, which is what schools popping up, some more graduates than there was jobs. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, it cuts a little bit, but we're getting the general idea. You applied, didn't get in, but it was a good thing.
Yeah. So I had three career opportunities. One was the MD path. Another one was a tax attorney path, and then the retail pharmacy path. So the two of the three was biology or STEM related, if you will. So I just started at Tesla from Verizon, and at the time it was Elon Musk had owned a company called Solar City, which was selling solar panels. And I was working there, and I got fired within like 2 months. And so I had $13,000 in my Fidelity 401k. So I was talking to my mom about what am I do? I got fired.
What happened there? How you get fired, O'Shea?
And I just started there, and the person, I won't call it. The person was white guy Keith. He just didn't feel like I was going to be a good fit. I didn't do anything. He just didn't like me, so he fired me.
Fired by Keith. That's funny.
Like, yeah, man, I want you to come here real quick. And I walked in, and they had my last check. They're like, you can go. And one of my best friends, his name is Jason. He's a Filipino guy. I was like, damn, what am I going to do? It was like in November 2014. So here I am, 33 years old, still living with my mom, got fired. My mom told me, she said, it's time for you to go ahead and apply. So at that time, I just finished the UC Berkeley post-bac program. Dr. Patrick Brown, I want to give him a shout. He gave me a chance. And I thank him for it. If I ever see him again, he's a PhD, taught anatomy at the University of Virginia for many years, and he moved up to the Bay Area. So I drove there for 2.5 years, trying to get my GPA up for medical school. So I applied here, and then I got in. And at the time when I was unemployed, I was on YouTube, and I was making videos in my car. It was just, something to play with. At the same time, I had a magazine called PlanetO'SheaMag.com, which operates something like the Shade Room. But we went bankrupt, right? We lost all the money in my 401k. And I had $5,000 left. So I closed down the site. I was still on YouTube making video like once a week or whatever. And so then when I came to Poland, and I was using YouTube kind of like to vent, if you will, or explain issues that were going on in the Black community, or just, I wasn't even looking to make any money. Mm-hmm. I did that for 2 years. And before I came, Obsidian came 2 months after me. Mm-hmm. So Obsidian was there. Angry Man was there. I met him a little bit later. Jap, I met him a little bit later. But Obsidian was the first person I linked up with. And Obsidian was very unique, that he was talking about African American issues from the blue collar male perspective. And that's how I got it really in tune with Obsidian. He's really, really good. And the issues that he was talking about were so unique. I think some of his best work was from 2015 to 2017. We would make a long story short. First year of medical school is what they call the weed out year. So we had histology and biochemistry and physiology and, Moore's anatomy book, if you guys know what that is, and genetics and all of that. It was very, very tough, but I made it through the first year, so I was excited. But in that first year is when I came back, I got my first rake the hell up, said, O'Shea, you should turn your AdSense on. And then the first day I made $30. I said, wait a minute, I made $30 in a day. And then the next day was like $50. And once I knew that I had market to make some money on here, it was pretty much on from there. The first, I went from making $400. The second check was about $1,200 that I got paid on. Then I had my biggest month in November, which was like $6,600, 2016. So at that time, I had made some comment. I was studying African neocolonialism, which has always been a very popular topic for me, like what happened when African Americans experiencing their civil rights. And so I was talking about that also on YouTube. But then that pushed me to link up with another brother from my city named Dynas Demir. I don't know if you know who he is, but he's called the Search for Uhuru YouTube channel. Mm-hmm. And his name was Albert Hollis in our city. But then he was actually going to Africa. So we knew the same people. We knew each other. So when I talked to him, he's the one that got me changing some of my views about Africa. It was inadvertently. It wasn't trying to change my opinion, but I kind of thought about Africans more or less as it's kind of you guys over here and it's us over there. And here are some reasons for the divide and things like that. But he convinced me to go to Uganda in 2017. And then when I went, I was able to experience it for myself. That was I met Woody Mai in 2018. And some of those things were so I kind of ended up in both. And I was supporting the African community here in Poland also. So that's kind of how that happened.
Interesting. Shout out to Dr. Thunder in the house. Shout out to Dr. Thunder.
Hey, what's up, Doc?
Says 2 of my brothers in the struggle. Getting all hotep over here. No, that's not allowed, Dr. Thunder. That's just not allowed. So shout out to you. Shout out also to what is this here? Our business. Thank you very much for the super chat. The salute to O'Shea. Okay. Now, so we looked at how you were able to go, make certain moves, ended up in Poland using YouTube as a kind of a way of venting, talking about the community. The community is a priority thing, it seems. It's like that has always been an interest. you ended up with that, saying that that's always been a popular topic of yours, right? So, or interest of yours. So it's natural that, okay, you're going to end up, you know, if you're on YouTube, you're probably going to end up in the Pan-African space as well, right?
Yeah.
So, but then you actually going to Africa was a step. And then also, as you mentioned before, how do you then go from just going there to seeing, okay, the business opportunities here as well? Because the whole thing here is to kind of see about real-time critical thinking skills. In other words, responsibility rather than blame. In other words, the whole shout out to you. The white man held me. The white man holding back my internet. The white man stole my bus pass, or whatever it is that's holding you back. How to maybe you say that, maybe you don't say that, but how to, in spite of that, keep on moving. So how did you see opportunities in Africa that's such that you're like, okay, I'm not just gonna go there and be like, oh, I went, but I'm gonna plant some roots there, plant some seeds, water it over here, water it over there, so on and so forth.
Yeah. So I would say quite naturally, I'm a person that, even if it's on a small scale, I'm a person that's a builder. I mean, I might not be the best person at it, but you know, I'm that kind of person. And when I went to Uganda the first time, it was more or less to see, you know, what the experience was, if I liked it. And then what happened was that Sudir Rupiella, who's the richest man in Uganda, he made a statement one time and said, you know, either Africa is in your blood or it's not. And when I came back from my first experience in Uganda, I kept calling me back. And one of the things about Uganda is I kept seeing people who look like people in my neighborhood. You know, I kept seeing the same mechanisms, how people walk and how they act and stuff. I felt, even though I didn't understand what they were saying, I knew where I was at. I felt comfortable where I was at. And the second trip was a deciding trip for me, because I wanted to know, like, if I liked it again, then I would always come back. And I did. I went to South Africa in June of 2018, and I liked Johannesburg a whole lot. It's one of my favorite cities in the world. But the third time I came back was when I went to Joburg again. I was dating some lady out there, and then I was out there with Woody Maya. And that was a time where I saw Woody Maya set up, and I'm going to talk about that. Woody Maya is probably one of the popular, the most popular African YouTuber in sub-Saharan Africa on YouTube. And Dr. Mumbi at that particular time was also rising in popularity in the Pan-African space. And you know, YouTube is not just not just an online business. YouTube is a business, period. And the way that you really get on YouTube is not through, a lot of times, online consultations, but if I can see how you run your studio, if I see how you run the back end, what does your editors do? What's the day in and day out of, you know, packaging the thumbnails and stuff like that? What equipment are you using? What gimbals are you using? How many extra batteries do you have for this shoot? Things like that. What are you using for the, you know, how many XLR cables do you travel with? How many HDMI cables do you travel with? When you start learning the technical side, you can't really get that a lot of times online. But when you see somebody doing it, and when I got to Kenya, I understood that they were much more advanced than me as far as from a technical perspective.
I see.
You know, like I just had a microphone, USB microphone like this, and then a laptop. But when I pulled up on Woody Maya, he had, you know, so many things. He had an editor. He had, you know, a lot of people that could help him out in the business, and he had a really good system. So from there, I realized, like, oh shit, I'm behind. You know, I didn't know about. I knew, but I'm like, okay, listen, well, you know, right now I'm streaming a lot, because Ramil will tell you, I used to do all of my damages on like pre-recorded videos or streaming a lot, like we're doing right now. And it's just not the best way to run the channel, but I didn't really infrastructure to run the business. But I found that out then and there that, yo, if I'm a business, this is, you know, I need to make some changes to be able to achieve this goal. So when I went to Uganda, I didn't know anybody that could edit, but I knew somebody in Kenya who actually edits for me now, which is Dr. Mumbi's old editor. And the reason why that happened is because he quit and went to DSTV for a year. You know, DSTV is the biggest cable network in Africa, it's out of South Africa. So he was there for a year. He learned sound, he learned video editing, things like that, a little bit more. He's pretty good. So when he came back, she had already moved on to somebody else. And so the connection that was already made, because I knew he was very meticulous in what he was doing. I said, we'll meet up in Uganda at some point. And so that whole point, we're talking about what kind of stuff we need, what kind of equipment do we need on a day-to-day basis. So he was telling me, here and there stuff. So I was able to understand what we needed to kind of research it. Now, but at the same time, when I was going back to Uganda, Jonita, who's my manager, brought in somebody you might have heard of called Kim the Comic.
Yep.
Okay. Now, Kim the Comic is the guy that's in the Strugglewood. And that was one of our best finds. We had Kim the Comic, there's another guy named Quasi. So we found out 2 guys. So I have now Dima in Russia. I got him off of Upwork. Okay. So Dima has set up all the templates from my channel, how it should run. Then I had Satati in Kenya. Then I end up getting another guy in Kenya. And then I end up getting, Quasi and Kim the Comic, but I just didn't have the equipment to run everything. I couldn't put it all together. But I had these pieces that if I could feel all of these pieces, I knew we had market what we can do. And so it was just the thoughts were just, okay, let's try to connect the dots. Then when I found out that, okay, fiber internet is only in certain parts of the city, that's when I knew that we had to stay in a certain part of the city to do this job all the time. Right. So it was just little things, cutting and coming back, leaving, coming and cutting back, and then being able to have a competitive advantage over everybody. Because you know what? The reality is any business, all businesses come to what is your competitive advantage over somebody else? And that's all I'm looking for. I don't care if it's a 2% or 3%. If I can get the competitive advantage over you and do something you can do, I know you can't fuck with me. So even if it's not working the money right now, I'm thinking I got the advantage if I can just connect these dots somehow. So Uganda was saying, hey, we're the competitive advantage you need. We're going to keep coming back. So I would stop going to other places like Brazil or I wouldn't go there. I would go back there all the time to get more knowledge about what I was doing, to understand how people think, to understand what I was dealing with, And then every time I started compounding that advantage, and then boom, it all connected last year. But it took like 4 years.
Yeah.
So the whole thing about it is anybody, if you can get a competitive advantage over anybody, it doesn't matter how long it takes you. If you can get it and they don't have it, that's all that you need.
So, and just as you have kind of elucidated right now through this story, you also give these quote unquote gems all the time about the how part and the importance of the how part. You mentioned, okay, how it all works together, how it all goes together, how many extra HDMI cables or 1/4 inch of this or so on and so forth, extra batteries, this, that, and the other. You take the small tripod as well. We want to be able to switch the cell phone, blah, blah, all kinds of things. The how part is very, very important, right? And you give so let me ask this thing now. It's kind of like when you do this kind of what is the goal? Is there some kind of advocacy behind your, let's say, Kinganda channel, right? And also in your other channel? So far you've talked about stress release and venting and the business aspects, the behind the scenes, how it works and so on and so forth. Is there a project, a charter, if you will, and with certain sets of outcomes that you would like to see out there in the world?
Well, yeah, let me kind of start with Kinganda.
Okay.
Because Kinganda was a channel that I started. I wouldn't say it was a channel that I thought would ever make any money or anything like that. But what I wanted to be able to show is, a lot of African Americans were returning to different places, like Ghana and things like that, or Tanzania. And it was, when they would vlog it, it would be very, very selfish. Not to say that it's not selfish because it's all about you, right? But it's like, here's my experience in Tanzania, or here's my experience in Ghana. And a lot of times it would be a little shaky and stuff like that. But one of the things I wanted to be able to do in Uganda was not only African Americans have access to a platform, but to be able to bring the Black community together worldwide. So if you look at Kinganda, one of the biggest things that we do is we provide marketing for farms.
Mm-hmm.
You know, one of the biggest types of farms that we promote on Uganda are piggeries. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
piggeries, layers, production of poultry. We've done catfish, rabbit, and one of the things that we want to do is we want to be a service with the skill set that we have to people. There are people who have gotten engaged and married from our dating show. You know, we have that going now.
Really?
SPK Lifestyle. I don't know if you've seen him. He's currently there right now. And
Okay,
we
that's
wanted
nice.
there to be able to be more of you know, a country that we felt that had a lot of opportunity, but that people that were Ugandans themselves that were somewhere else in the world. Shout out to Afropolitan Podcast. I met her because of Kinganda. And then we wanted to be able to, you know, bring the whole Pan-African community around a platform that offered value and not just opinions, you know, or not just
Yeah.
you know, something like that, and which you didn't see before. I think we're the only people, you know, in the continent that does this. What we do, you know, we try to offer value for what we do. We try to do a really good job at a high level, and I think that, you know, we're just going to grow because there's so many peoples that are living abroad that don't know about the opportunities in Africa. And, you know, also Woody Meyer taught me something because he was trying to change the narrative about Africa in many ways. But I wanted to be a part of that also, but from a different experience. And
I
one of
see.
the
Yeah.
things that we try to do is we try to bring the business community in. We try to bring the African American community in. We try to bring the British community in, and try to give back to people who have given me so much. You know, and
Mm-hmm.
so that's kind of look at it now. The manosphere, which was my first love, and it still is. When I came into really running the administration of what you see of the Black manosphere, right? I didn't start it, but it's safe to say that since 2017, I've been administrating and bringing in the guys that most of them that you see, me and Obsidian brought in most of them, but most of the guys that are doing very well today have either come through me or have been helped by me in some facet. And you know, it just wasn't a lot of platforms that Black men can come in and be introduced together through a channel. And I believe that's what my channel serves. Obviously, you get money if you're good and your consistent money comes. I get a lot of money now, so it's not even really the whole goal. But seeing Black men become successful, and you see guys email you, you know, because of, you know, your value or what you said, it made me change my way. And a lot of Black men, you know, didn't value themselves, had a lot of didn't value their position in the world. And I think the Black manosphere aimed to change that. You know, we have the Hall of Game that we were running for some time. I wanted to bring it back. You know, my celebrity junk, I try to do it to get certain messages across and things like that. I think a lot of Black men have met and been united. I mean, you know, because I remember I gave Kevin Samuels his first interview, and then you became a subscriber to him, and then I met you, you know, and it's coming full circle. We all are meeting this community we've been building since 2015. A lot of guys in the professional world, and a lot of Black men just didn't see accountants or attorneys or engineers in our city. We just didn't see that. You know, we didn't have access to Brother Ike, who's an engineer, or Pocket Watching with JT, who's an accountant, or, you know, the lead attorney, or Dennis Furling. Those guys are not available, but in our community we have now, though, Dr. T.S. Johnson. We have those guys now, and it's amazing. We have guys that are in every facet of the economy, you know, from truck drivers, you know, to healthcare, to guys who are doing things. And it's beautiful, you know, and it was basically just giving Black men the understanding that we're all going through the same thing. And here are some of the solutions. And that's what's made this community so strong. And that's the same concept on Kinganda. It's a lot of problems in Africa, but we're trying to provide the solutions. And, you know, the community solves the problems in anything.
So you've said a lot so far. I'm going to just go ahead and give a quick shout out to the super chats out here. Shout out to Young Grump in the house. Thank you also, O'Shea Duke Jackson. I had yours on. And then we have, let me see, highlight the 1, 2, 3. We got Soul Provider in the house, holding it down. Soul Provider. We had Doug.
Yeah, Doug. Tell Doug I'm gonna post some stuff on Patreon. Don't worry, I'm posting today.
All right. I'm gonna just I'm gonna go by you guys this real quick. Salute Ike and O'Shea. Can we get those old classics on Patreon? Okay, you've answered the question. And $5 super chat. Subscribe to my man over there, Soul Provider Speaks, representing the black nerds, the blurs in the house. Then we also have Julian Brown. Salute, good collaboration. Thank you very much, sir. And also we've got over here, who is this? We got Native Arain.
That's my
It's not
brother
native.
right there, North Carolina.
Oh, okay, cool.
I forgot Native's old YouTube name. He had another name that used to. Native, what was your name before, brother? He been around for a long time. I love Brother Rain. He's really good people.
And the Prophet of Thought says, Ike, I'm jealous. How did you get ODJ? Damn it. Okay, so you've been saying a lot so far about giving value and utility. In other words, it's not just a kind of you mentioned the selfish aspect of like, oh, here is my experience over here,
Right,
or the
right.
or the kumbaya aspect of, oh, let's all hotep together and hold hands. It's like, okay, no, but where's the value here? If you come to my channel, are you gonna be able to learn about these particular kinds of agriculture and so on and so forth? Am I gonna be able to promote agriculture? Am I gonna make these kinds of partnership, utility, value, networks, all those kinds of things, right?
Yes.
So can you elaborate upon that? Because we talked about the how do the things work, and you're always looking to places like, if it's working over there and I'm learning over there, I go back there. I don't start going all over the place. I don't start turning around, becoming inefficient. It's working, I go back there, I develop that little node in the network. So when it comes to obstacles, right, the typical kinds of obstacles to overcome, because you've generally kind of glossed through them, what would you say are some of the big ones, and how are you able to overcome them, either they be internal or external obstacles?
Well, I mean, if we want to talk about in Africa, or just
you can start there. Yeah, you can start. It could be generalities, and you can use specific examples. Yeah.
Well, I'll start in the manosphere. You know, since I've been in this community, you've had a lot of obstacles. You know, I've had people. I won't call no names or nothing, but you guys know about some of the beefs that I've had. You know, people saying things about you that's not true. People being, jealous, and it's funny because folks will say you jealous of them and you're doing better than them. But Brother Doug is here, and I want to thank him because Brother Doug, he told me, like, for some of these guys that are coming after you, you don't need to even respond to them. And one of the things is that, I learned over the years to be where I'm supposed to be at. And that's one thing that I want to, tell a lot of black men who watch this channel. A lot of times you can get sidetracked and doing things, but always be where you're supposed to be. And that's how I try to live my life now. I'm focused on what I should be doing, and sometimes you can get caught up here and there, and you can get burnt out, and you can, your mind can go somewhere in time. But I try to be focused on what I'm supposed to be doing, and I'm where I'm supposed to be at. And once I started focusing on what I'm supposed to be doing and where I'm supposed to be, I found I had a lot less problems. People having problems, people doing other stuff like that, they're saying this. I really can't control what people say, but the one thing that I can control is I control what I do. And I can control on me being focused every day. And every day, I haven't taken a day off of work since November 16th. And November 16th was when I flew from Entebbe back to Belgium and then to Poland. So I try to keep. I'm supposed to be there where I'm at. Okay, Native Negro. That's right. Rainy night. But let me just say this about Africa. Africa was a little bit. It's actually easier for me in the manosphere to deal with black people because I've dealt with them before. In Uganda, you're dealing with somebody that doesn't look at the world as I may look at it. They don't have the same experience. And people who, not all, right, but I've definitely come across people who are looking to take advantage. And then when you're dealing with African Americans, it's very easy. I don't want to take advantage of. You can tell right away, like nigga, get up on my face. But when you're dealing on the continent, people are a little bit more subtle about it, and it's a little bit sometimes a little bit more indirect. And I've had to learn that, Sometimes you can be a little bit too nice, trying to be a little bit too pro-black. And a lot of my favorite words was no. Now, okay, the answer is no. And I had to, really focus my time around the people that I had to create, because in Africa, as African American, you have to create your own new family. It's the only way you can survive, because you can't speak the language. You don't know how things are. There is no Best Buy. There is no Amazon. So, if you want to get Amazon, there's no same day delivery. You have to go through a third party shipping company to get it there. So now you're depending on people that you need to, that you're looking for towards your survival. And I've learned a lot of patience, because when you're in the continent of Africa, you're now the boss, the trainer, okay? And you're the person that selects the talent. You're wearing all these different hats. When I worked for corporate America and the lower levels, I never worked in the upper scale parts of upper, it was always at the baseline. You go to job, you're done, and you're done for the day. When you're in Africa, you talk about being an entrepreneur. You're also the person that's training the person. You're explaining why things happen. And then you're being patient when people make mistakes. And before I was having a problem with that, but now instead of getting angry, I look at, well, they make a mistake. Well, why did you make that mistake? Well, this is why I made a mistake. Okay, well, then maybe it wasn't clear. Then this is why we do such and such, right? And if something is not happening in the business, then I have to come back and look at myself. Am I providing everything, all the resources that they need to do to achieve? And if the answer is yes, and if there's a mistake, and sometimes it is, but usually it's not, right? Because, Ugandans or Africans are just as smart as anybody else. And that's another thing, too, is getting over the cultural perception, like, oh, because they're from Africa, well, they're not that smart. Well, it's not true. Anybody that has, and if anybody knows Kevin Samuels, we did his intro. A lot of editing. If Kevin Samuels needs some good editing, he won't even call nobody. He'll call me. And you know who does the editing for Kevin Samuels? The team in Africa. Because they have the equipment, right? So if you have the same opportunities, they can do the same job. So it's just picking the right people around you that sometimes is a little hard. But once you get it there and building the value of working together, because they don't see it, because they're from different tribes. Some from the north of Uganda, some might be from the west, some is from central. So they've been doing things individually by themselves. So when they see this kind of unit thing, one guy's from Kenya. So it just takes some time, but those were the challenges. And once they see the value and then they can trust you can trust them, then that's when great things happen.
Gotcha. And the challenges are, one big one is patience that you mentioned. Okay. You're going to need to train people. You're going to need to overcome the fact that, not everybody is as competent or can be even as you. Not everybody is as intelligent as you. Not everyone is as versatile, as willing to make moves as you. And it is the kind of the entrepreneur's dilemma. You're going out there on your own to do something that people rarely do.
Right.
However, we have this kind of contradiction in our head where we just expect to be able to find people who are just like us. It's like, come on, why can't you just grind it out? Why can't you just do what? It's like, nope. That's not how it works. Got to build the system, right? Got to build the system, make sure that you have the right parts and pieces, and they're interchangeable. Right?
Yes.
You push these 3 buttons, and if the next person that comes over, you tell them you just push these 3 buttons. This is the 3-button push and roll in the company, right? And if you don't have that, then it could definitely be a problem. So there's a question of responsibility, for example, which I want to just ask you about. Like, for example, people may give you responsibility for starting the, shall we say, the manosphere, being one of the founders. Do you take any kind of responsibility that of either that you internally generate and say, yes, I'm responsible for this and I'm going to stand up for that? Or do you take on any of these responsibilities that are thrown on you? And just one word about what's on the screen right now. Generally speaking, just put my cards on the table. When it comes to outside investment into Africa, there's certain preferences, and you may harp on this as well, O'Shea, after you kind of answer this responsibility question. There's certain preferences. For example, whether you like it or not, people actually prefer Americans, okay, and American companies, because the Americans, as opposed to, let's say, Chinese, Russian, so on and so forth, okay?
Yes.
American soft power, the ability for them to market their culture and have a good reputation over the world is next to none. Let me say that again. American soft power, their ability to throw out their image into the world, whether it be hip hop or Hollywood or we're nice guys or freedom and blah, second to none. And also they tend to match it with their attitudes. An American will come in there, it's like, okay, here's the investment. Okay, if it doesn't work out, I'll sue the shit out of you and everything, but it'd be all nice and friendly. But but I'm not gonna try to bring my people to manage the place or to do the work or whatever. I'm gonna have it free for you, but just give me my goddamn money. I don't want to go over there. Okay, that kind of a thing, right? So they're not so like, well, if you have these other types, they will bring their people in there. Only their people are allowed to work there. Only their people are allowed to manage things and so on and so forth. Everything's all kind of locked down, and they don't have a good reputation, and they tend not to. It's almost like the autistic kids of the world, right? That nobody wants to do business with. But anyways, the question about responsibility that you may or may not feel, and also you may harp on the question also on the screen as well.
Well, do I feel any response? So the term Black manosphere, I didn't come up with that. The Angry Man channel came up with that. This whole idea of Black men being independent as a media channel and having their own Black male media, that the brainchild of the person, if I could really give credit for how the Black manosphere is, the person I would say, even though he didn't come up with the name Black manosphere, but the person who I believe is the most responsible for this idea of men talking about men's issues in the Black space is Obsidian Media Network. He is the person that I say is the brainchild of the Black manosphere 2.0 generation, for sure. I would say he's Peter. I am Paul. Okay. So he's the one that on this rock, right? And I feel like I spread the gospel to the Gentiles, if you will. So that's been my thing. So as far as, because see, the Black manosphere, when it started, it talked about Black men's problems with women. And a big part of that discussion is still needed. But for the professional guys, there was not anything for them to be able to get involved with, like yourself, because it was just really just talking about women all the time. And somebody considered that hate speech. We needed Black men who came from different thought processes, Black men who were married, Black men who were in the pro-Black community, Black men who were, that had other ideas about Black male life that was not represented by us, guys who disagreed with us. And I understood that. We needed more diversity of thought into the platform. And that was my job, was to find the image guys. Okay. To find the guys who only date white women. Okay. So and to bring guys into that made it more representative of us in Black America, not just representative of Angry Man or Obsidian or just me. So we needed more guys who were into the tech spaces, and that's where the Hall of Game came from. And so we started bringing in more talent, and that was what I did. So if there's anybody that could take more of the failures or criticism of Black manosphere, everybody gives it to me for the most part. You
brought that asshole in. Anyways, go ahead.
Yes, I've gotten the most slack because I've done the most work with creators. In fact, I'm more, as much as people know me as my subscribers, I have the most impact behind the scenes as a creator. So, you have my number, Medical Tutorials and Reviews has my number, Book of Alpharonomy has my number. A lot of the things that I offer is the best work that I do is behind the scenes. So I'm probably, I would say I'm the most valuable person in Black YouTube to other creators, if that makes sense. Not necessarily on YouTube to subscribers, but if you want to look at like my weight in gold, it's offering value to the Black YouTube creator community. That's where, and I try to tell guys, you can't just have value to the subscribers on YouTube. What about the other people in the business? So that's been whereas a lot of guys, they would, they were more focused on making their content, but they're not really so focused on the other guys that were coming in. So the travel community, I was very involved in that, and stuff like that. So I probably worked with over 400 YouTubers that I can think of in the last, 4 or 5 years. Some of them doing better than me. So that's my biggest.
Yeah. So it's like you take the flack for that, but you take the responsibility because okay, this is the
Oh yeah.
area I'm working in. There's gonna be hits and misses and so on and so forth, but that's my department and I'm good at that. You keep on bringing the idea back to value and spreading the value, which is something that I tend to talk about here, which is about the pipeline, the flow, right?
Yes.
Some people are trying to always stack something. And you don't understand that, it's like, I'm going to stack mass, but without the velocity, it doesn't work. Also, in economics, in the economy, the velocity of money is a major aspect in that. I think it's PQMV equation that they tend to have when it comes to macroeconomics, or when you talk about the circulation of a dollar around the community, and so on and so forth. It's not the stacking of the dollar; it's to pay this guy so that he can then give it to his kid who buys lunch meat from the same lunch meat person who's in the. So that same $10 is going around feeding a whole bunch of people. So circulation and that kind of the movement, the flow, put value out there. It always ends up coming back to you, because I'm saying this because you're kind of putting it from just the objective point of view, like, how about the value? How about the value? How about the value? But in reality, that value comes back to you, correct?
Yes. Yeah. Oh, so, yeah. It's
go ahead.
Very, very. I couldn't say it better myself. A lot of people helped me to get to where I'm at, especially in my community. A lot of guys helped me. Even on YouTube, a lot of the brothers that supported me, Doug, and the Native Range. A lot of the brothers. I see Brother Goshen in here. He was a guy that was on my channel for a long time, and a lot of guys helped me to get to where I'm at, and I thank them for that, because we're nothing without the people. But that's one of the things that we needed. We needed a lot of black men. Brother Drew Branch. We need a lot of black men that kind of believe that, number one, the other black men had something to offer, which I think that was a big problem on the black internet before. Like, a lot of black men didn't really feel like other black men had nothing to offer, which was a lie. And once we were able to build some trust between black men and let them know that, then we started to see a community of people growing, and that whole aspect of that, it revolving and coming back. We had some problems here and there, but I think overall it's been, quite successful.
Excellent. So I know we have a few minutes left. I want to ask you this question to take us out here. Yeah. Thank you very much for.
I might got about 20 more minutes for you today, brother. I might got 20 more minutes for you. Go ahead.
Okay, cool. Good. So, but let me ask you this. What's the difference? How does it feel to be able to, because there's the earnings aspect of this, there's a money aspect of this when it comes to utility and so on and so forth. Money is a big tool, right?
Yeah.
We talked about the flow of cash, the flow of value. Now, what's the difference, right? You being broke and getting fired and staying in your mom's house and so on and so forth. And now being able to, okay, I'm managing this operation over here in Uganda. I can fly to Poland and take care of this kind of a thing. Making YouTube content for people in America and in the Pan-African space. I got some money to, I see some of the pictures that you put up. Some I like, oh, guys, you're eating good.
Yeah, be on there trolling. Me and Dean would be trolling. Yeah, I like trolling people on my website all day. That's one of my favorite things.
People like to hear the difference about that kind of stuff, or the value of that, because money is very, very emotional thing, right? People are like, you talk about money, people are like, oh, but it doesn't make you happy. Oh, but it doesn't. Just give us some of the difference, because I like the way you tend to put things in terms of like utility, value, capacity, tool-like types of talk. So how has this tool made a difference in your life?
Oh, wow. I mean, well, in 2014, 2015, whenever I wanted to buy something, I really want this, but like, I remember looking at my vacation at work and taking 2 weeks off, but I was like, well, I don't want to take it off because I got to meet quota, and I don't want to so I was afraid to even go on vacation that was even, certain paid, because everything, I just didn't have enough money to do what I wanted to do. And to be fair, I really didn't have a big respect for saving money as I do now. But since 2017, I've been able to go, almost any mall or any store or anything, and know that if I really want to buy that, I could. That's been a good feeling I've been able to feel for about 4 or 5 years. But really, when you look at money, and I tell people, what's the biggest advantage of money? People say, well, you can buy things and you can have this. No. The biggest tool of money is it allows you to get a competitive advantage over somebody else. That's really what money is about for me. Money allows me to do something that I know that you won't be able to do. And that's going to be able to give me staying power in whatever I'm trying to do. Like, now I'm able to pay for my education if I want to do that, which I have been able to do. I can be able to hire, let's say, if I want to do step boards, tutors, or more time, I can buy things that will help me get more into the business, onto a different network, onto different things, into a farm or into stuff. It just helps me getting more. I can gain more of a competitive advantage, and that's what I did. Like last year in Uganda, I remember just because we were making so much money, and it was locked down, you couldn't go anywhere. I remember, we must have bought $100,000 worth of stuff in like 6 months. When everybody else was complaining and crying, and the whole time we're buying and buying and buying and procuring, things that we're going to need, whether it's the Shure mics or whatever it is, that nobody else is going to have this stuff, and eventually what you're going to use it for, that you already have it, and that's going to go to the next level. And that's really what money should allow you to do. It's just to extend advantages that you already have for people that can't get into it. Like, for example, Warren Buffett, he talked about investing in things that he only knows and he understands. So one of the reasons why, it's hard to go from like $1 million to like $10 million is because the big money is really made in things you have a real big advantage in. And if you look at like the Black community and monetizing in Black spaces, whether it's online or in person, if you look at Tyler Perry, what he did, he really understood the Black space of women, how they thought about themselves in media. And that was just a real big competitive advantage for him. And look where it got, So that's kind of how I look at it. Like, if you have the money and you really understand what you're dealing with and you understand what you're doing, it just helps you extend and extend and extend and extend. And people don't know what you're doing if you told them they couldn't do it. So I look at, money is a tool. You can buy stuff if you want. And a lot of times I'll troll people with that money and I'll just send it back to the States or something like that and put it in my Fidelity account or whatever. But really, the things that if I wanted to get into it, I can have leverage. I can have leverage over certain situations. I can have leverage over, for example, if I wanted to fly all my team out to Accra and hang out with Wody Mai and pay the price to appear on his channel, that money can help me do that. I can gain. I could use that same money and get Kevin Samuels to be in a struggle with, and I can gain a lot. So now I'm in a network where that money I got now is I can extend my advantage and keep extending it. I can then meet some people in real life and then extend it in other ways that somebody else couldn't. I just can play in different lanes that other folks can't, or other folks wouldn't want to be able to play, if that makes sense. So that's kind of how I look at it. Money is extremely tied to the value that you have. I mean, nobody's going to pay you for if you don't have the value. And one thing that money also allows you to do is develop more skills. Any entrepreneur, you see a lot of YouTube channels, they start off and then they like stay the same. And the reason why it is because the skill doesn't grow. And, me, if I would say my skill set, whether it's academically or whether it's a creator, would I say that over time it's compounded and it's gotten better? Sure. I'm a much better entrepreneur than I was. I'm close to my other goal than I was. And that money is helping me to develop skills. So just in case something doesn't work out, I'm able to do something else here. So the skills keep increasing as the money gives you the opportunity to develop those things. 100%. Whether it's I'm buying skills from a book that I might read or a conference or hurting people, I have that availability and utility because of the value that I already have, and I'm able to get more. What keeps compounding over time. And that's really how money should be utilized. I can't really spend my money on things like, I got this new car or whatever, but I don't get any utility from that. My money is, I'm trying to provide more value to extend my advantage over you. That's all I think about. When I go to the store and I see 10 people, 9 of them I want an advantage over. That's all I care about. I don't care about anything else. I worry about my advantage over people. That's one thing I'm concerned about.
The competitive advantage, I think,
that's all I care. I don't care about how much money. Let me tell you this also. I don't even. When I went to Uganda, I didn't think about, well, this is going to make you $1 million. I didn't care if it was $1. All all I want to know is if I make this decision, do I have an advantage over everybody else for the most part? And if the answer is yes, I lose $100,000. If I can gain an advantage over people, that's all I care about. So the money will come later. Give me the advantage to extend over time. If I can do something that you're not willing to do, I'm going to kick your ass with that advantage. It's for certain. And people don't really look at it like that. You see people who get money and then they buy stupid shit that can't help them get nothing. Then you're going back busting your ass again for the next month to get nothing. Money is about advantages. He who has them versus he who doesn't.
I like the way you put it. Let me go ahead and take care of these super chats real quick. Okay. Shout out to L Boogie in the house, I believe, for the $5 super chat. And then we also got W Alfonso, brother W Alfonso. Where are you over here on the StreamYard? Thank you very much for also another $5 super chat. I believe this has one. Maybe not. L Boogie. Okay. Let me see which other ones are down here. Make sure that I got it all. Shout out to Blind Guy, his wife, their life. Make sure you guys go ahead and subscribe to that channel. I was there. Let me go ahead and drop the link over there. I was there not so long ago, and yesterday, I believe, and they run a very good and professional show over there, if you will. They got things. They run a smooth operation. So shout out to them. And also, ladies and gentlemen, make sure that you go ahead and subscribe to this channel if you have not subscribed before. Click the subscribe button, like, subscribe, bell button, all. Also, we come here live every Tuesday, myself and Dr. Thunder, with Getting Ish Done. I appear with Joan. I appear with some other individuals. We talk about being better and doing better. So, O'Shea, when it comes to what you do on YouTube and when it comes to the outcomes that you're trying to see, which we've so far talked about, the competitive advantage, the movement of value, the creation of flow, the utility, and the networks, and so on and so forth. Now, why do you do it? Depend in your heart. What I mean, I'm going to give some context as to the why. In your heart, are you thinking when it comes to the advocacy part of things, right? When it comes to things that are external from you, are you thinking, okay, I would like to, and I started asking this question recently, and I think it's a good question. I would like to protect the herd, the group, the sheep. I'm a shepherd. I'm a pastor type. Protect them from against the would-be nefarious individuals that are coming trying to attack them. Or are you like, okay, I'm trying to create a space for individuals. I'm for the man, the individual person, and trying to get him to maximize his competitive advantage. And I'm protecting him against the group, right? Obviously, in your actual doings, it's going to be both. I'm not talking about in your actual doings. I'm talking about in your heart. Are you, hey, I'm here for the one guy, or hey, I'm here to shepherd a group?
Well, black men are, a group that can't be really shepherd, but I will look at it as the shepherd thing, right? I would look at them as as the guys that, because I understand what African American men go. I'm one of them, so I know the problems that we have faced. And when I try to, I don't have courses or anything like that. I don't have anything to really sell, the brothers, and it's not my t-shirts or whatever. So when I try to say something or get across to them, I'm coming from what I believe is to be genuine, my own heart. When I think about, black men, I'm looking at us as a group because we have so many individuals out there. And I want to speak to that. When I come to Poland and, I was in Lviv, Ukraine, the first time in 2016, I saw these Turkish guys, and I saw how much they helped each other achieve certain things. And when I look back at my community of men, I just never really saw that a lot, especially in our age group. I said, wow, we have so many guys that have so much talent, and we're arguing and fighting over, little bitty stuff when we have so much opportunity. It's enough for everybody. Money is not money is not so finite that we got to be finite, right? So I wanted brothers to understand that it's more if we help each other. Let me give you a good example of that. Look at Obsidian. Obsidian is a guy who wrote that book, the Book of Obsidian. And literally, Kevin Samuels shouted that book out. And that was something Obsidian. He was selling books, don't get me wrong. But that jump that he got, he would have not been able to achieve that without the help of Kevin Samuels. And we have all, and shout out to Kevin. Kevin has helped me, right? Kevin has really contributed to what we do. And I can never thank him for all that he has done. You just can't. The guy is he's been so influential behind the scenes also. But the thing with African American men is to get them to understand we are a group. People look at us the same as you see the King Ghana channel about Nigerians and African Americans working together. Those other groups of people look at you as one group anyway. So we need to respect each other as much as we can as men and try to help us achieve teams. Because a lot of the guys that have helped me in this community, man, the Dougs, the moderators, the media talkers and reviews, the Walden Myers, I met some of the most amazing people. Phil from the Advice Show. We're not that cool now, but during the time I worked with him, man, he helped me out a lot. And men can help each other do great things. When you look at things that are built in communities, that's a responsibility of men. And if men don't help each other, what are we going to achieve? So that was my thing. Let's all help each other, and that's my message. And I think a lot of guys are starting to see that, hey, I need to be a part of the group to achieve things. And once you can do that, you'll be able to see a lot of problems that, in my opinion, I think that blacks complain about, insofar as racism and things like that. I think those things can be solved rather fast, because you can't make people respect you or like you, but you can definitely make them respect you as an effort, as a group. I think a lot of black men, if they would realize that, we would be so much further. So I always try to implement that into my messages. Hey, when you see brothers in the street, talk to them. Try to help out other black men. And it not only just help out. Don't just take from the table. Bring something. Bring your utility, as you would say. Bring your value. If you don't have value, go improve yourself and get value, and then bring it.
100%, 100%. Now, so we've talked about this bringing of the utility. You've talked a lot about how can I actually bring value, operate at a higher level, so on and so forth. We understand the roadblocks that are there, and I appreciate the fact that you always take, for example, you've had a conversation with me about right there from the beginning in terms of like what to do, and I've slowly implemented aspects of it, right? Whether it be the visuals and the audio visual stuff, like cool. I think I got a decent setup going there right now. In terms of other bringing in help and having a machine in the system, that is also underway. Now, we've talked about obstacles to this. We've talked about how you were able to go about expanding even beyond what you would have thought as a child, right? Now, let's say somebody were to ask you, well, how do I get this done? Okay, O'Shea, in terms of what are some of the tips in terms of, because you said, okay, let's all help each other, right? But and bring something to the table. Some people are like, well, I don't have anything to bring to the table yet because I don't have the patience. I don't have the ability to bring real-time critical thinking to bear. Not because I don't have the brain cells, but we know that it's an emotional hang-up. The hang-up of stories. This is the way we've always done it. No one in your family has ever done that before, so on and so forth. How are you, and perhaps to people now who don't have your particular set of advantages, maybe, from a personality standpoint, what are some kind of tips you can give them as to, well, how can they actually in real time think, in real time look at the world as a place where action can be taken, they have agency, and they can change the outcomes based on the input they put in. And shout out to Bijou Noir. Shout out to Bijou Noir. Thank you very much for this super chat. And go ahead, take it, O'Shea.
It's a very great question. What I would say is, for those people who, unfortunately, we have a lot of problems with, and I'm going to say this, and I know some guys will get upset about it, but unfortunately, we have some problems with guys in our community who blame problems on other people. That's one of the main things. And when you're in a group or in a community of people who are successful and you want to achieve what they have achieved, the number one thing that you have to realize is wherever you are at, it's because of you. I used to do that. My mom used to allow me to feel bad for myself and things like that. And then my father would tell me like, no. You just didn't try hard enough, and I'm thankful for that. And a lot of Black men, we have to get away from the influences of people, especially women in our family, who will allow us to fail. And a lot of times, women and sisters and girlfriends will allow you to fail with a mediocre effort. And the reality is that it's unacceptable. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's unacceptable. Men, if you fail and you know that you have the same ability to read, write, and understand, like anybody else does. Many of you brothers have really good mind going. You're smart. Then you have to understand, before you can be a utility to somebody else, then you have to be accountable for your failures, and you have to address them, because people who are doing very well talk to somebody who doesn't want to accept where they're at. You think you know everything and all that, and the reality is that none of us does. Okay, we don't. So if I'm a failure and I've been failing and having problems, then it's my problem. It's not Ike's problem. Okay. Just like you don't want to deal with a woman that has problems with her daddy issues or whatever. I don't want to have Negro problems because you have dealt with that. I'm not dealing with that no more. And no successful person wants to deal with that. It's your fault. Okay.
Let me ask that you may reiterate and perhaps elucidate a particular point that you have mentioned that, okay, you may be surrounded by people, let's say they're women, and this is the way of showing social support.
Right.
It's okay, so on and so forth. They kind of pacify things, but that men definitely don't do that. Okay. And then there's something else that I want to add to this. There's some people who think that there's a level they should get to when they can relax. I want to ask you, I think I know your answer to it, but there is no end to the killing of your inner BAN, right? Every day you got to wake up and slap that bitch down in terms of the laziness, the comfort, the resistance, the procrastination, it's okay, the comparing with myself, like I'm doing well for my cohort, like I'm a 1%er in my 30s or some BS like that, right? And it's like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't freaking matter. Okay. You still got to get up and kick yourself in the butt. It's no one else's responsibility, regardless of what the blame is. And there is no kind of plateau where one is looking to and be like, they're going to be comfortable. That's not a man's world at all. Would you agree?
No, that's true. And unfortunately, when you come to a foreign country like Poland, you find out real quick that, when you're in Sacramento around people that they have sympathy for you. When you come to somebody else's country, they don't have any sympathy for you. So if the problems that you have follow you to where you're at now, then ultimately the problem is you. And that's something that I had to address real quick, was that if I'm having this problem, I did it. I'm having this issue. So I have to address my own flaws, because other Black men who are doing something, or other people in my community, they don't deserve engineering, or a brother like the lead attorney, or a brother, they've already have enough problems in their life. I'm pretty sure they don't need me bringing their problems to them. I need to bring my value to them, and my problems are for me to deal with. Okay. So that's the number one thing. Nobody wants to, hear about your problems. If you have problems, this goes to the psychiatrist or psychologist or whatever. But in terms of that, you need to have an understanding, after you deal with whatever issues you have, what are you trying to achieve? Okay. Nobody can help you with trying to achieve something if you don't know what you want to do, because nobody has time to do that. And I think that what Black men have to understand, whoever's listening to this this thing, is, these are what you want to do. You feel like you can do it. Are you willing to put in the work? Things are not always going to be easy. Like I said, I've worked every day since November the 16th. I've not had one day off. But the situation is that what I'm trying to do, I'm serious about what I'm trying to do, and I have a say. I'm where I'm supposed to be. Okay. And then once you're able to understand what you're supposed to do and what you want to do, then the skills that you need to do, can you show up every day to do what you're supposed to be doing? So I want to be a YouTuber, and then they try it for 1 or 2 months. They could be really big, they could be good, but for whatever reason that they want to quit, or it's too hard, or they don't want to learn how to do certain things. Well, life is not like that, right? Life is about showing up every day. Whether I get 20 people to watch my videos or 50 people to watch my videos or 50,000. Every day I'm going to show up with.
Mm-hmm.
We went to go see him preach, and it was only like 9 people there.
Mm-hmm.
And he had preached at St. Paul's Baptist Church with Dr. Ephraim Williams. He's now not the pastor anymore, but it was about 2,000. So it's different. I said, bro, you really preached. He said, I preach on Sunday, don't matter where. If it's 9 or 9,000, I always do my best. And that stuck with me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, stuck with me. The effort is there, right? And I try to put the effort where it needs to be, and I'm where I'm always supposed to be. I'm there. I'm where I'm supposed to be at.
Mm-hmm.
So if I say I'm gonna do something, I'm there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not over there. I'm where I'm supposed to be. And once you can stick with that, then people will realize. I would talk about Brother K Business Podcast. He doesn't have a big YouTube channel, but when I saw his channel, I said, man, this brother got a good channel. This is a brother that got value. I can see that he might not have a whole lot of time, but I know he's in his life, in his real life, I know he's where he's supposed to be. I ain't never met the guy before, but I know he's where he's supposed to be. That's the kind of brother I need to be doing. With those things, deal with your own issues, focus on what you're trying to do, and then develop over time where you want to be, no matter how long it takes you. That's when you start attracting people towards you that you can partner with, that can help you with. But nobody's going to be dealing with nobody that's not serious.
Gotcha. Okay, so I'm going to say this, and I'm going to give you the last word on this, and thank you very much for extending the time with us.
Yeah, sure.
And then maybe I'll spend a couple more minutes with the hooligans in the chat trying to address some of the questions. But something that came up was this. Someone said something about, oh, why would you be in Poland? Some story, but let's say, the white man's country or something like that. But this is this is the antithesis of what you're saying, which is get your competitive advantage. It's not about the story of like Mario doesn't say, oh, I don't like that rock, so I'm not going to jump on top of that rock in order to dodge the fireball, right? Because that's the white man's rock. It's like, no, I'm going to jump on that rock to dodge the fireball. And then I'm going to continue on my journey, whatever it may be. In other words, there is a view. I always put it this way. Look at the world as a place where the objects are movable, a place where it's a forum for action. You look at yourself as Mario. You do have a say in the matter. You can jump, you can swim, you can duck, you can shoot, whatever. You can get a star, which is like a good luck, right? Get that little star and just run through everybody, right? But you can't be all filled with stories. Okay, stories are important. Okay, stories, history, lineage, who did this and who. Important. The whole blame mechanics, important. But when it comes to actually doing stuff in the world, you can't be prejudiced against a rock if it's going to help you get to where you're trying to get to, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah. Then with that, ladies and gentlemen, go ahead and it's been great. I think you brought a lot of value to the table today regarding, well, how do things work? Be there to see how they work. All that talk and all that feeling and all that kumbaya and all that group type stuff doesn't really work without value. And value is something that can be judged and must be judged by the marketplace. Not you just thinking, oh my God, it's a 10,000 bowl of chili. Take it to the chili market and have somebody pay $10,000 for it. Then it's $10,000 worth of chili. You can't just sit there and call it yourself. So let me give you the last word on this, and then we'll go ahead and start closing out this broadcast.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because I went to Uganda. It's easy to be like, well, I'm an American, and I should have things, that American privilege. But you make a great point. You never get done improving yourself. Every month on YouTube, it's a new month, and unfortunately, I can't live off what I did last month, right? I have to continue to be in the business. I have to continue to be where I'm at, and then if I want to be in somebody else's society as a foreigner, I need to do something from those people that they can't do for themselves, right? I need to be able to add value to a community to say, I deserve to be here. Whether it's in my community or somebody else's community, wherever community I'm going to be, I need to be offering value and bring something to the table. Not just my U.S. passport, not just the fact I'm a Black American, I deserve to be here, because nobody owes you anything. Life is about the problems that you can solve for people, or value that you can bring. What is your skills for that? That's it. That's all I'm dealing with. And I'm dealing with how to get a competitive advantage over something, an area, over people, over whoever else, a competitor, whatever. That's what I'm trying to do. At the same time, though, even though I work with the YouTube community, I have certain things that I have every day that, hey, this gives me an advantage in this area. And sometimes I can lend that to somebody, but I haven't. So I think of the world in this, I've been living out of the States. When I come back, eventually I'm grateful for what I do, but every day I'm out to prove myself as if I don't have anything, as if people don't owe me anything. And I have that same fire every day. I really don't even do what I do for money anymore. I just don't. I mean, it's easy to say that, like, oh, I'm not really motivated by it. I made so much money on this YouTube thing. Even guys now, if I want to have consultations, let's say, for example, because of Kevin Samuel's success, because Kevin Samuels really raised my stock up. Like, he put people on to me that would have never known about me. If I want to charge somebody $1,500 for an hour to talk to me about YouTube, they would pay it, And the thing about it is that I can't even really do that because I know they're gonna pay it. But it's all about the value that you have that you bring, and that's what I try to do every day is be the best that I can be. And the last thing I tell people, I worry about being great. Every day, if we're doing the celebrity junk, if we're doing whatever, I'm worried about looking at giving a best effort. If it's a thumbnail, I'm looking at giving the best effort. If it's a title, I'm looking at being a best effort. If it's sound effects, I'm looking at it being the best effort. I'm always trying to go to the next level. If we're here, let's go there. It's never enough for me, and that's the kind of person I do things to be great. I'm trying to be great. I'm not. I mean, you can give me a dollar sign about that. I don't deal with dollar signs anymore, because I'm not rich or anything, but I'm making enough money to be able to be like, okay, well, this is more money in these 2 months I've ever made, in 5 years. I have enough money now to say that. If my mom, I want to say, well, hey, here's $15,000, and there you go. It don't hurt me. Here's 20 grand, don't hurt me. But it's not about that. I want to kick ass. That's the only reason why I'm here to kick. I'm here to be good. I'm here to be great. That's all I care about. I want competitive advantages over you. That's all I care. I don't care about nothing else. That's it. And I want to just see how much I can extend that. That's all I'm here for. I'm not here for shit else. I think that when we understand about that, we worry about value to the community, value to society, value to each other as a group, extending our advantages over other people as a Black community. Then that's when we get everything else. But if you have no value, if you have no skills, if you have nothing to offer, then nobody respects people like that. That's just the reality of the world we live in.
Shout out to you. Shout out to you. Shout out to you. Round of applause to O'Shea Duke Jackson, bringing it and holding it down. We are going to continue the conversation for a few minutes while O'Shea gets back to writing down the things he's got to buy on in terms of his stock portfolio and everything. But shout out, brother O'Shea. Hopefully, at some point in the future, we'll be able to come back and continue the conversation after much more success has been acquired and much more greatness has been attained. So, peace to you.
Thank you so much, brother. Peace out.
All right. Excellent, ladies and gentlemen. So we are going to go ahead and, you know what? I'm just going to drop the link in the chat for anybody who might have a question that relates to the topic today before we go ahead and end this. And if there's no one, then we will go ahead and end it anyways. But as a way of recap, recently in the conversations we've been having, we've been talking about the obstacles to critical thinking. And this was a great example, a great case study in all the obstacles to critical thinking. Critical thinking and its obstacles really are not in the realm of, oh, I got to be able to solve a difficult math equation. No, it's in the realm of being prejudiced against a rock, right? Rather than picking up the rock and using it as a tool. It is the prejudice of, oh, that's not going to work anyways, because that's the voice you hear in your head. There's an emotional hang up to it. And we saw that this conversation did not involve O'Shea kind of inventing some kind of a new material, okay? It did not involve any kind of crazy theoretical physics for him to come up with the solutions of some crazy mathematical problem that's been daunting human beings forever. No, it was just, okay, what works? I go to Wodemaya, I see that he takes 2 extra cables, 2 extra cameras. He has 2 guys helping him with this. Ba, 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 ba. Okay, I need to replicate that. I need to duplicate that. I need to get that going in my life. Okay, and what stops him from doing that, or what would stop somebody from doing that, it's not the brain capacity to think that, okay, let me just copy that. It's the emotional baggage. It's the emotional hang-up. It's the stories that we tell ourselves, the stories that we have been handed down to us before we were even born, the stories about our family, the stories about the kinds of things our family do, and the types of things that you're supposed to be able to do out there in the world, the roadblocks that are in your way, so on and so forth, ladies and gentlemen. So I think that with each step, when it came from, for example, I am going to not just go to Africa, but immediately see the opportunities in order to get a competitive advantage in Africa. Immediately see that, oh my God, so Wodemaya has this particular group of people that do editing. Can I get one of them? Do they work freelance? Oh, no. Okay, I go to Upwork. He went to Upwork, for example, which is a place where you can find people to be able to work with. He went to Upwork. And what did he do? He found Dima in Russia. Dima does great editing work for him. So the idea, okay, is to take the action when you see how things work, and the compounding competitive advantage, which was something that he said, compounding competitive advantage, CCA, continues to build such that you're going to get to the point where it's going to look to others as though you invented something new, but simply you just had the discipline to follow through with action. The discipline to follow through with action is basically all that we saw here today. So, can you test your audio there?
No?
Oh, yeah, it's you. It's the blank screen, the blank page of
The blankie of life.
the blankie of life, the Swahili speaking weirdo.
Yeah, shout out to O'Shea. This has been one of the best interviews that I've seen you do. The reason why is because O'Shea is actually someone, or rather the kind of person I respect significantly. The reason I respect him is not for his content, it's actually for his movement. It's the fact that, from that show you've been doing, talking about critical thinking, responsibility, he made an interesting point that I kind of felt needed to be shared. And it's one which I have also kind of experienced with one of my female friends recently. Women, oftentimes, when you are failing or when life is pressing against you too hard, will want you or tell you that it's okay. And this, of course, will comfort some of us and disallow us from finding ways to truly fix that problem. Almost no problem is at a zero state, meaning, okay, so if you don't have legs, does that mean you can't be a runner? Of course, it doesn't mean that. Even then, you could enter the Paralympics. It's very, rare cases where your reality is an absolute no-go zone. There's always something that most of us can do. Unless you're in a vegetarian.
Most of us can do if you look at it objectively, right? But however, the problem is you look at it with the lens of the problem. You rather than look at as though you were just objective God that says, here's a no-legged automaton robot. What can I do with it? Maybe I could attach these to it. Maybe I can do that. But when you're the no-legged person, all of a sudden, all objectivity is lost, right?
I don't know about that. I mean, I think you're generalizing here, of course. But I mean, I've been in pretty hard circumstance. I mean, when I was young, when I was around 6, 7 years old, someone decided to cut my leg almost off. My leg was just dangling by the skin, right? And I could have done many things. I could have complained. I assume
this was in Africa.
Yeah, this is in Africa.
Yeah, that sounds very African. Go ahead.
Sounds very African. I mean, this was an actual knife, like almost like a sword. Someone decided it's within their best efforts to cut my leg.
Just chopping off kids' legs. Another night in the Serengeti.
Another time, someone else decided to do something, even worse. But I won't state some of it. The point is, right? Do you know what I did once I had that leg cut off moment? I went back to studying. I went back to making sure that I finished all my exams because I had exams coming up. Why? Just simply because I could. Was I in pain? Sure. Did I cry? Probably. I don't remember. But what I do remember in that whole experience is that things happen, bad things happen. And, it kind of allowed me to sort of take more responsibility. So what did I do? I took responsibility. I learned how to walk again. I slowly allowed my leg to heal. We connected the tendons back together, and I still have a big scar on my knee. And it's a good thing it was right at the flesh, where the connection is. So things were still solvable. So the angle was I was quite lucky. It didn't cut any any big nerves, which would mean I wouldn't be able to walk, or even worse, a vein that would have meant I would have died because there's no hospitals it's not easy to find a hospital in some places.
It's not easy to find a hospital in the kinds of places where people just slice the legs off of 3-year-olds. I get of 6-year-olds. Go ahead. Yeah, I get you. You understand. Go ahead.
Right. Now, I had several different paths to take, right? I could have been far more taking this as a traumatic experience in life, right? It's like, okay, I was traumatized. I was abused as a child, etc. This is an objectively true statement, right? I was abused by that adult. Turns out they went to prison at some point. There were actually a maid that stabbed their boyfriend. It's a long, complicated story, anyways. But I could have taken down that whole path of, my life is like this because I had this bad experience. And, did I process the emotion? Right? I did. That's the thing. I actually did think about it. I did actually allow it to, sift through. And then finally, what I realized is bad things does happen to people. Then there was another time when I got bacteria and a viral infection in my eyes, right? We went to the hospital and the doctor gave us, some kind of steroids, which made one of the two stronger because he was only aware of one. It's unusual that two things happen at the same time. And I almost went blind completely. I literally could not see. I woke up in the morning to watch Saturday morning cartoons. And I was like, I can't quite see. I was literally in so much pain. And obviously not seeing, right? Point here is, I went through these things and I could have taken a slightly different path in my life and said, yeah, life sucks. And it does in that moment. It did suck. But what did I do? Is, I prayed to the Most High. And they told me to go to a Christian hospital where somehow the doctor was able to see the mistake the other doctor made just in time. And I was able to save my eyesight. So that was one of the kind of things that you need to be able to move immediately when something bad happens to you. Start thinking of a solution. I know there's an emotional pain of, okay, I might try everything and it still fails, but that kind of inertia, as you call it, or rather, that's part of the problem here, is that the fear of trying because there's a potential, especially if it's a high chance of failure, is part of the problem that O'Shea was talking about. A lot of brothers have. They feel that the glass ceiling is so high, or rather so low, but they were taught that it didn't exist, but it's actually quite low. They feel like if they really tried, and because when you're trying, there's an emotional investment that you put in whatever you're trying to do. So I know where it's coming from, and overcoming that thing is something that men need to definitely learn. And I can clearly say that it's the more feminine aspect that pulls you back and tells you it's not your fault, as if fault matters at all, right? It's like, what did I do to prevent my leg being cut off in the future? I made sure never to hire any shady maids. I mean, I was not the one who hired her, but the point is, I made sure to learn something from the experience. Okay, it's vetting people extremely well. How do I make sure that I don't get attacked by virus and bacteria infections without knowing? Again, I improved my hygiene. And when I said improve my hygiene, I mean I didn't improve my hygiene. The point here was that it was actually the cleanliness stuff that my aunt told me to take was actually making me worse, because what she thought was helping me was actually what's actually making me worse. So just learning how your body is, how you respond to things, helped me get out of that mood. And the reason I say all this is because I resonate with O'Shea a lot. I went to a certain school, I went to a certain university. I remember my chemistry high school professor was like calling my mother saying perhaps I shouldn't I should drop out of the class because for whatever reason, right? And in the end, I ended up, doing it at degree level, right? I ended up having to fight so much different kind of things like that. But I think the one thing that helped me is to never really kind of internalize it. Even when there was objective proof that one girl gets 5% less than me, but she's promoted, and I get 5% more, but I'm demoted in a class. Things like this would all, if you take these stories together and you add them up, you see actually, things have been unfair. But I also know people who internalize things tend not to be able to move past things.
Yep. And if you internalize too much, something that you were mentioning earlier, which is the stories that you tell yourself about the possibilities of things going wrong. And it doesn't even have to go that far. It could be stories about future work, stories about future pain. In other words, stories about days in the future where you're going to have this as an added responsibility on your plate. This is a typical, this is something that in persuasion of all kinds, you need to understand as a hang up. Because when you're persuading, when you're selling, when you're influencing, when you're trying to guide people down a particular path in terms of making a decision, you have to be aware of these kinds of obstacles. Okay. And this one, and they're all emotional, by the way. So this ties two aspects. We've been talking about critical thinking and so on and so forth, and the emotional hangups. But also when you're trying to influence people and sell, you're going to encounter these hurdles to critical thinking. So this particular one here is about, I don't want to buy this membership because I'm afraid of having to wake up at 6 a.m. Right? In terms of the gym membership, like I want to be fit, but I'm scared about having to do my end of the bargain. I want to invest, but what if it goes wrong? And I'm scared of this $10,000 that I may have to put up, and the fact that it's now also going to be in my calendar. And what we do, and this may help an individual, because in terms of in sales, what you do is you start painting a picture already of their life with that added responsibility, with that product that you're trying to sell, with that action having been taken, or you paint it in a positive way. And you invite them to think critically, such as, so if you had this new software, what will be the main thing that you use it for? Right. So rather than talk about, oh, I don't have the software, I don't want the software, to be scared, it's like, okay, you got the software. Okay. What would you use it for? Now they're in the room. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I think there's an extra step that you haven't articulated just yet. And I think I was actually a victim. Yes, I use the word victim of this step also. It's the fear of failure itself, not the fear of losing a material that's just linked to the failure, like the gym membership. Okay, well, I will lose this money, or if I buy this subscription. It's also the fear that because you didn't succeed, you are now something called a failure because you've tried on something, especially if you invest in emotion and you tried and you still failed. So there's that kind of self-judgment that comes in. So for example, let's say in school, right? There's some periods of my time when I didn't really study that hard. No, I got better than average grades, fine. But I never consistently got, the grades that I should have gotten. There was a reason for this. In my mind, somewhere deep down, I thought if I do better than most people and I still don't study hard, I would like to be that guy rather than be the guy who studies really hard and nothing improves, for example. It's like knowing your limit or something, or rather thinking that you've discovered your limit. That fear actually exists, and I think to a lot of people that's something that they need to overcome. It's like, okay, even if you didn't succeed this time or the next or even 10 steps down, are you the kind of person that A, will do it until they succeed, or B, are okay that you just didn't succeed? Is there anything wrong with you are not good enough in this particular field? For example, let's say O'Shea, for whatever reason, maybe it was FE reasons, he didn't fit in with the group. We know what that means, especially in certain kinds of groups he was working with. Let's say Tesla with battery kind of solar cell selling. There's a certain kind of aesthetics that they're looking for. Whatever you take from that. Let's say he didn't succeed in that particular group. Let's say he did fail in that particular job. So what? Overcoming that mentality of fear of failure, I think is actually really, really significant. when I finally just stopped going over the fear of, not being as smart without trying as I was, I studied, and the rest is history. For the first time, I studied when I was in university, like actually sat down and read a book. And that's when I overcame that fear of failure, or rather fear of what I think failure is to myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, limits, finding them out, or hiding away from them, hiding from limits. The internalization also, you would say, was the cause of that fear for you, because you mentioned internal. Oh, don't internalize. Okay, well, can you not internalize?
Don't just live within the internalizations. You do need to actually have a strong set of morals, principles, and duties and ideas and concepts of who you are. But you do have to be flexible to a point. If you want to be true to your kind of very honest principles, and you think you're going to be a very good lawyer, think again. You won't, because lawyer advocating for someone is not about the truth as, even in an objective sense. It's about what can be proven, what cannot be proven. It's very different from seeking an objectivism. It's what can I hide from the judge? What can I hide from the jury? How can I twist what someone else said in order to make it seem like what I'm saying is actually more accurate? I've delved into some of this whole lawyerisms, right? When I was young, I made one of my childhood friends believe that he had stolen something that I actually thought that he had stolen. But I was able to use legal techniques, I didn't know that's what they were at that point, to make him actually admit to stealing my game. That's when I reconceptualized things, and I said, no, this is not right. Because I found my game later on, and I realized I made a mistake. So since that moment, I told myself, I will not act on something that might hurt other people unless I'm sure I've gone through all the logic, all the evidence, and this person is innocent. I would not be able then to be a lawyer, because maybe a patent lawyer, but I'm not going to be advocating and lying if that's my moral principle. So you do need to internalize certain things, but at the same time, don't only be that internalization. If you're starving and you need to eat some meat and you're a vegetarian, hey, look, your kids are going to need you alive in order for them to stay alive. You are going to have to put aside.
Yeah, the issue, to put it perhaps in a less, or in a slightly more abstract way, is that there's this problem of the self, right? The self is the center of all this pain, disappointment, and so on and so forth. It also is the center of certain kind of joy or elation, blah, blah, blah. The self is accused of what keeps us from being in the present, in the zone, critical thinkers, and so on and so forth. It is this issue. And then we never quite approach it by saying, well, what is the use of the self? By the self, you could then replace it with a system of values, the internalized, as another thing, right? That the ego, viewed from all kinds of different perspectives. We could call it these, roughly speaking, just for sake of nomenclature and roughly pointing things out. So
man, your big words. I don't even think most people know what nomenclature means, right? You should kind of tell people what it is.
Just for the sake of identifying, of pointing it out, of being able to call
it naming
something.
system.
It's a naming system. So just for the sake of that, we could call it the ego. We could call it also the self. We could call it a system of values. A system of values is for me the most workable definition, in the sense of, okay, I can now look at it as a system, right? I can look at it. What's the relevance there? Because you mentioned you have to internalize certain things, and then you mentioned, for example, you versus the lawyerisms, and how you need to internalize a system of values such that you can assert that in the world against the lawyerisms, right? So point is, okay, is this the issue? Is that we look at this self thing, we never quite say what it is for. We keep on just talking about its problems, as in, oh, because of my ego, because of my identity, because of myself, because of my internalizations, I feel bad. Maybe I need to be more okay with this, or maybe things need to be more fluid. But we never talk about, well, what is it there for, right? In other words, it may be just like everything else, a bicep, a tricep, a set of eyes. What is it there for? How do I maximize its use and minimize its pitfalls? How do I align it with the overall goals of my being, and so on and so forth, right? What is the use of the self? So would you like to reiterate that point?
Yeah, so, okay. I'm going to try to use some of the words you mentioned, such as ego, etc. So there's ego. The ego, most people have a wrong idea of what the ego is. The ego is not something that is making you think you're better than everyone else. The ego is just your sense of self, who you think you are in this world. So some people have an ego that is a lot more comfortable with itself, and some people have an ego that's a lot less comfortable. So they're a lot more insecure about themselves. And this can obviously then be seen by others as, well, you've got a big ego. That's sometimes when there is insecurity, or you've got. That's how people might kind of see that. The insecurity, they'll say people have a big ego, but in reality, if you actually have a big ego, it actually means you're very secure, because you are not going to allow others or the world, the external world, to keep projecting things onto you infinitely, and you're not able to do anything about it. And I'm going to use a small personal experience and go back to the point. But same thing again, what happened in the school that I was at is that there was a parents' evening situation with a panel of very experienced teachers and my mom and everyone else, and they all had this idea that I should listen to them because they know more. And I was this is to do with my homework. You never do your homework, you're going to fail the next high school situation. I told them, I'm not going to do homework. I'm not going to fail. I didn't fail last time you said it. They said something interesting. There's wisdom when there's many people telling you the same thing, and they're not wrong. There is wisdom, but when you have enough ego development, you can break that down and say, yes, this is generally a true thing, but in this case, I'm going home and I'm reading a textbook on the material and finishing it way before the homework is set. I'm not doing the homework because I don't do any work. I'm just not doing the homework that is prescribed to me, but I'm doing far more than anyone else in the class, because so that's the kind of stuff you have to start be able to do. Break down intentions of the external world when they're telling you something, and then internalize it, and then kind of make it fit into your own little model. You have to be able to see that they do have a point, you have a point, which point is better? Can the two merge? For example, that's what I did in university. I didn't realize, okay, I do need to do things in a time scale that is relevant to the course, because if I don't study on time to pass this exam, then, because in university you have more frequent exams than you do in high school that matter towards your goal. So I had to be able to understand and break these things. You have to know the external world, the self, who you are, what they are.
Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. Okay, you got this thing called the self, the values, the ego, whatever, your sense of self out there. You say it's got to be strong, right? And if you have a big ego, then you'll be able to counter some BS. Okay, and then you go in and talk about it. You go in and you start talking about something which implies something which you did not mention. There's an implied premise here. When you go in and start talking about the workings of this clean self, the implication is that it is clean. It is very free of, in other words, you paint an abstract self, free of the emotional hangups that are definitely part of the sense of self, right? That'll stop you from actually truly evaluating, well, what part do they have and what part do I have? How does it fit into? So in other words, you're talking about that clean self, which I tend to call a system of values. I say that the cleanness yourself can be, it's almost like this rubric, heuristic, rules, system of laws, if you will, principles as neat as they can be, as correlated as they can be in terms of having a consistency with them, right? That will be the self that you're describing doing all that work. But the question is, how the hell did you get to that kind of a self? How did you get to such a self that is able to be as neat and narrow as all it is a system of values? It is not, oh, I'm the son of this particular tribe and we are warriors. It's like, no, I have warrior values which have to do with courage, valor, discipline, so on and so forth. It's like courage, valor, discipline doesn't have a father or a grandfather, right? It doesn't have, it's not sticky about these stories about whether it's for Rome or for Sparta. It's like, it's just courage, valor, and such that kind of a thing. How does one get to that point?
Yeah, that takes a lot of meditation, and simply put, because whenever you're growing up, what you hear with the people that are our age, older, or let's say from old Gen Zs to old millennials, from 20 to about 45, what you keep seeing is that people keep talking about how they were raised as such a way, or that's actually usually what we'll say. My childhood was X. My father did X. My mother did X. My person didn't do or tell me how to do X or whatever. There's a point in your development process where you have to start to see and reflect you have to kind of start to mirror the world outside you. So, and this can happen at any age. You know, people usually have I call it, you know, the quarter life crisis. Around 25 years old, people start to have a lot of mental breakdowns, like just, you know, typical things where they're sad some days, or they realize actually things aren't okay. Like it's the framework that they've been building all their life starts to break apart. The ideas of themselves, the ideas that who they think they are, who they think the world thinks that they are, they start having all these issues or, you know, childhood traumas creeping up onto the surface around the age of 25. That's the first time it usually creeps up. My advice here is, when you could either be like me and do it since you're whatever 9 or 6 or 10, or when it does creep up at 25, because we only change when we need to change, right? And some of us have more advantages. For example, I may not have, you know, fit in the community that I was living in as much for various reasons. That gave me an advantage because I was able to see the world from an outsider perspective. So if you are the person that was, you know, the coolest kid in your little city or neighborhood or whatever thing you value, at 25 you move to a new environment, you realize, you know, you're not the shit anymore, and you go through that ego death, the death of your perception of self. You need to start now thinking more more consciously about what you're doing. When when people you meet who you think aren't good for you, or they're always doing this, or these things are probably true to a level. They're not usually wrong. I mean, what you're observing is true. You know, if you're the girl who, you know, thinks you're beautiful, but because you're dark skinned, you think people aren't gonna be preferring you or treating you better. Well, yeah, that's an objective fact. But you also have to look into yourself and think, okay, well, how many times have I not seen these other people that are there? How is it that I'm the only thing that that matters, but everyone else who I've rejected don't matter?
Okay, Mr. NE, always expanding all over the place. I'm saying, okay, so just to kind of do my thing again.
Okay.
So
yeah, bring us back in.
we're looking, okay, at how one is able to have that neat sense of self, that neat self-image, that ego, right? That center from which you operate.
Okay.
Have it so neat, okay, that it only reacts to systems of rules, logic, okay, based on certain heuristics. Just say logic, right? Based on values you've chosen. You have certain values. You try to have it as consistent as possible. But
Okay.
if how do you in real time get to that point? And you said it takes a lot of meditation. That was the beginning. But then from there, you expanded with examples and so on and so forth. But if we go take it back to, it takes a lot of meditation to in real time be able to have such a self. Let's pause there and talk about what that is.
Oh, okay, I see. Good point. Good point. Thanks for focusing us back onto the actual point. Okay, so when you're going through the meditation process, what you need to be able to do now is you have to demarcate. So you have to outline several very precise things. So first is the ego. What is the ego? You need to look into yourself and define it to yourself. Okay, the ego is who I think I am, who the story that I tell myself and about myself and how I interact with the world. It's the particularities that are based on my life. I am the cool kid. I'm the jock. I am also this nice guy who takes his grandma out. I'm also black. Whatever it is, that's the ego.
Okay.
Define it. Mark it.
Good. Let's since it's quite important. Okay, there's something meta you're saying here, which is, we have to demarcate certain things. Okay, we got it. Okay, now the ego, that first one, because it's an important package. I like the way you've put it there. But to be able to kind of make it a nice little layered cake, so that it could maybe help with people's memory, is that these particular stories, okay, and storylines come from out. A major part of them is that they come from outside. In other words, you're born of somebody, right? So the story of your mother's life, and so on and so forth. Let's call it a natal story. The story of your native story, your mom, your family, your tribe, right? There is an aspect of your identity that is going to be called from there, if you will, because that's a story in which you're playing a role. There are going to be other stories. You say, "Oh, I'm a nice guy to my mom, but I'm blah, blah, blah." In other words, you talked about plots, characters, and stories, right? So all these things are going to be out there as the soup that is in this ego pot that you need to kind of demarcate, right? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so part of the story, so there's two parts of the ego, or the story is the internal story of self. So this is the one that you sort of create based on the external stuff, and then there's the external story. That's the one that the environment around you gives you. So let's say you are a ADOS man from New York City. This is your particular history with the plain piece of paper man that you've been having across. This is your tribe. This is your particular history. I am a Yoruba woman from Nigeria. The Yorubas have these cultural traditions. They eat this food. They have fights or issues with that tribe over there, and this is why. Everyone will kind of get these external stories pushed onto them from the moment that they're born, and then everything keeps being reinforced across, stories in your while you're eating, and then when you're having fun or just whatever it is. These are the stories that are probably the most difficult to overcome, because these stories are so subconscious and implicit that it's happening since the moment you're born. Now, that's a good point. So you need to be able to kind of say, okay, this story does exist. Then go on to your own internal story and start trying to then define that story, figure out who you really are. And sometimes what will happen is you're going to see when the external story and your internal story do not merge anymore. So someone, let's say parents especially, might be trying to guilt trip you or emotionally manipulate you by attacking something about yourself that is not completely correct. They might be like, okay, you're a bad kid because X, Y, Z. You think to yourself, am I really a bad kid? Compared to everyone else, I know, and my own things, am I really this bad kid? No. Or your mom was, or father, whatever, it doesn't matter. People will try to manipulate you in various different ways for not fulfilling a part of the external story. This is now when you need to start detangling that and say, okay, I do actually objectively fail in their story narrative, but that's not as important as my own internal story, because
Okay.
I'm not contradicting a larger scheme here. I'm not being mean by saying I can't do this. It's because I literally can't. Just before you get back to Mike, a lot of African countries have the black tax, right? The black tax is when you're you're a young man or woman from a Zulu tribe or Xhosa, and you finally get the professional job in the city, Joburg or whatever. You start making significantly more money than anyone in that community makes. And then there's expectations. All your family members come in and tell you, well, we need this, we need that, we need this other thing, that thing. Now, what tends to happen is these people tend to give their parents or, cousins, uncles, aunts the money, but it then puts them at a negative place next to their peers and also their future, because now they can't save, they can't invest, and they can't improve their life for their own self and their own husband or wife. They're stuck somewhere. And the story there is, you are a bad person because you're not helping us, because we helped you when you were young. Part of this whole thing is you need to be able to break things down and start to detangle that. And sometimes the logic might even save you. You might say, well, if I actually succeed now, we'll be able to help far more greater in the future. Problems will always be there, for example.
Mm-hmm. So let's land the plane. And this was a great end to the conversation we had earlier with Brother O'Shea Duke Jackson. If you missed that part, okay, it was a great conversation for about an hour and a half. Go back and watch this. Make sure you share it and so on and so forth. And O'Shea talked a lot about value. In other words, bringing value. How do things work? What are the tools I'm going to use? How do I make sure that I'm useful vis-a-vis getting things done and expertise in the tools and so on and so forth to the group in order to accommodate movement, accommodate flow of value, flow of money, flow of know-how, so on and so forth, building networks. And by so doing, he's compounding, as he puts it, competitive advantage. He's compounding competitive advantage, always trying to get better and better and so on and so forth. One of the things that he mentioned, because we know, based on our conversations on critical thinking, okay, which is the application of the wisdom, which is what O'Shea was talking about in real, like it was just talking about it in value language, right? Economic language, if you will. But really, critical thinking, application of wisdom to critical areas of your life and its blockages, emotional and so on and so forth. One of the things that he mentioned in there was about being cuddled as a man, saying it's okay, it's not your fault, maybe, which perhaps that's what your mother should be saying, right? And that's what she's going to say. But that's why it's important to have a man who will say the opposite, because in a man's world, it doesn't work that way, right? And be able to give you that. And then you come in and you talk about examples that fit, that dovetail with this idea about the chopping up of your leg over there in Africa, and getting some bacteria in your eye over there elsewhere, perhaps. And then overcoming that. Okay, overcoming that how? Okay, well, it's you can't have these fixed ideas about the self, blah 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 blah, such that. And then we go into what the ego is, and we say it is for something. There's a reason why it is there. There is something that it is best for, and we say yes, you do have to have these internalizations, this ego, this image of yourself, this identity. However, it should be clean, lean, based on principles, based on values, rather than things that are sticky and that will cause you to think about particularities of your story, like your dad or your mom or your nation or the kind of person that you are, rather than just sticking to, well, this is a question of right or wrong, truth or good. Am I a man of principle or not? And what are these principles? And this will allow you to get things done, but also it'll allow you to, and perhaps these two things are correlated, allow you to be able to avoid the blows to the ego. So with that, I would like to give you the last word, and then shout out to O'Shea Duke Jackson again. For those of you who are not subscribed to this channel, make sure you like, subscribe, bell button, all. Like, subscribe, bell button. Like, subscribe, bell button, all. Like, subscribe. What do you think? Is that the new rap hit that is going to be out here in these YouTube streets?
I don't know. That sounds like, subscribe, bell
like,
button.
subscribe, bell button, all. Yeah, there you go.
Like, share, subscribe, and become a scribe, and join the tribe. Okay, yeah, that's it. Please like, share, subscribe, and join the tribe. I think I prefer that one.
All right,
but
good.
Yeah, so yeah, now to end it nicely, I think O'Shea is an example of what any person who can kind of think outside of their own environment can achieve. O'Shea was in an environment that didn't value him for particular reasons in that job that he was doing, and him being fired probably was a really good thing that happened for him, because it opened up the potential. If you're so stuck in a country where you think it's the greatest country in the world, you might start to kind of get these false ideas that you don't need to go anywhere else. I'm sure you, being Nigerian, you wanted to leave Nigeria to travel the world, to do everything. But Americans tend to have a more kind of, well, I already am in the greatest place in the world. So if I can't make it here, something is, it kind of, a defeative mentality can actually come in there, which again makes sense.
It makes sense, but when you look at it in the big picture, there has to be this kind of flow,
equilibrium,
right? Yeah, it's people from this side. In other words, people from the first world, if you will, to use that kind of a term, need to be able to take advantage of, because that's what their corporations have been doing. Their corporations and so on and so forth. The people that they don't see, people actually responsible for their civilization, if you will, have been doing this flow thing. But when it's time for them to wake up and have more ownership, perhaps more for gig economy, blah blah blah. Now you have to see, what I have to do, what the first world means is going out there and having a competitive advantage in all. So I do have to go out there into other parts of the world, set up in Poland, set up in Uganda, whatever, have a system running for me, because I do have competitive advantage coming from over here, perhaps capital wise, blah blah blah.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, what's your competitive advantage? Okay, you're a black man that looks light skinned. That is a competitive advantage. Not many people are going to be like, that's interesting. You're well spoken. You're intelligent. You can, discuss ideas at various different levels. You can explain things simply or more complex depending on the environment. You're a so-called high value man. You got your suit. You got your, you got nice little candles. You got good, now at least, visuals, etc. The point is, you've got a good competitive advantage in the market too, and you're good at making connections clearly, as we've seen with the people that in various different spaces. So the question is, Mr. Ike, is what's there for this channel when it comes to, you kind of elucidated, or that you have some things on the way when you're talking with O'Shea.
Yeah, so I was talking to O'Shea and I was mentioning the aspect of, because O'Shea dropped down all these tips in terms of find a system, find a group of people, okay, that are able to do these particular functions. build a machinery. Okay, don't have it be dependent upon you. And these are the kinds of things that are true across many different kinds of business, right? So, one besides the visual things and so on and so forth, one of the things we're getting into is a Discord server where, again, you do get to influence the direction of the show, go to Patreon, so on and so forth. But we're also going to be having more content and have a whole social media ambassador type of space where I get to use other people's talents, right? Maybe have other presenters, not maybe, but we will be having other presenters coming in and covering certain things. Like, you know, how O'Shea has, for example, his Kanganda show. They go out there, they cover with Juanita and so on and so forth. They go out there and cover farms or whatever. O'Shea is not there, you know. So I'm gonna bring in my Juanita. Let's see what we can do, what we can cover, so on and so forth. So those are kind of the areas which he told me a while ago, and it's taking time for me to get to the. I haven't reached my 1 year anniversary yet, but if you remember, he mentioned the time aspect, which I think is very key as well. And guess I'll have to land the plane now because I have to hop into another meeting. But landing the plane basically is about getting ish done at the end of the day, sir, isn't it?
Yeah. So if you enjoy this content, tafadhali, like, share, subscribe, and join the tribe.
Peace out, ladies and gentlemen. Until next time, catch us, myself and Dr. Thunder, Tuesday, getting ish done. Okay. We're going to be tackling some important things when it comes to being able to overcome the humps and give you practical tips for actually going out there, taking things down, demarcating, separating, handling, using your tools, improving your skills. So let me see. Let me see. Here's what I'm going to do. Okay. I'm going to go out with a little bit of a sample of a track. This is the one. Congratulations, if you remember, Sir Dr. K. Polly. The one that Kevin Samuels played on the one that made me famous on Kevin Samuels, the Congratulations, right? Remember that one?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Nice. I think people are gonna love it.
You think people are gonna love it? Okay, let's do that. Just let's see if hopefully my voice is warmed up in that key, in that area, or you get to laugh.
Well, we'll see. There's 72 people watching right now, and they're going to be able to hear you try to do something live stream.
All right. Aha. Shout out to Blind Guy, his wife. They're live. Make sure you subscribe to their channel. Let's go. We need more Jah in our life. Tell them no more soldier in our life. Give them the peace. Say no more war in our life. So far in our life. I say put away coca in our life. Open the marijuana jar in our life. The pain and the stripe we erase and we wipe. The suffering disease we replace with the peace for the lonely and the cold. Fire up the coal for the rebels staying bold. Let their stories be told. Come make we burn chalice and sip wine to celebrate the ital bliss. I annihilate the thorny vines and dwell within the highest grace. I annihilate with the will and the word. And I say that both deserve the congratulations. Hey, need no stress in our life. Tell them no more brokenness in our life. Give them the peace. Say no more stress in our life. Put in more hands for more decks in our life, from the former to the next in our life. Fire that we churn, fire that we burn. We patiently await the Messiah will return. So fire up the sound and the ringing of the gong. The singing is profound like the beating of the drum. We need more fun in our life. Sense afi born in our life, and the wicked afi run out our life. In age love in our life, like a blessing from above in our life. The higher voice, congratulate, like we celebrate. People we motivate, regardless of your color or your race. We comfy, elevate the pace, progress we embrace. More blessings and grace, it's never too late. No. In the belly of the beast, seeking to reach the mountain peaks. Yes, I. So let us roll another spliff. And our spirits shall lift. Come make we burn chalice and sip wine to celebrate the ital bliss. I annihilate the thorny vines and dwell within the highest grace. I annihilate with the will and the word, and I say that both deserve the congratulations.